Hi everyone, and now for your aviation weather. Starting out with our flying weather this morning, we've got some IFR along the north slope, down almost to the Brooks Range along the Alcan. Also some up through the Bering Strait. Lots of marginal VFR along the Chukchi Sea coast into the eastern interior as well. Some along the Alaska Range. Some marginal VFR for southwestern Alaska. And then Wednesday morning, we're also expecting at least a band of IFR from about the Pribilof or so down through the eastern Aleutians, and that's associated with that frontal system that's out in the Bering Sea. And then for southeast Alaska, expecting some IFR on Wednesday morning in the southern panhandle down around Dixon Entrance, and lots of marginal VFR all up through the panhandle. And then for Wednesday afternoon, expecting that IFR to really dissipate in southeast. Some marginal VFR over the inside waters and up into the higher elevations. All along the eastern border of the state, expecting some marginal VFR, as well as along the Brooks Range into the North Slope. Some IFR is lingering over the Beaufort Sea coast, almost down to the Brooks Range. Got a little bit of IFR in the Bering Strait area, lots of marginal VFR in southwestern Alaska, and then we've also got one patch of IFR out in the middle Aleutian Islands, lots of marginal VFR all across the Bering Sea. And then for Thursday morning, that frontal system advances, bringing some IFR into southwestern Alaska down through the Kuskokwim Delta. We also have lots of marginal VFR all across the western and northern portions of the state. IFR lingering along the Beaufort Sea coast. Also some IFR moved inland from about the Point Hope area down through the Bering Strait. Marginal VFR for all of the Bering Sea, and then some marginal VFR for the inside waters of the Panhandle, upward through the Yakutat area and just off the coast of Prince of Wales Island. And then for Thursday afternoon, that marginal VFR maintains. A little bit of IFR forming in the Dixon Entrance area, southern part of the Panhandle. Also marginal VFR persisting on Thursday afternoon for the northern Panhandle and over in the Yakutat area, as well as a little bit into the southeastern interior. Also marginal VFR along the Brooks Range, off the coast. And then as we get down into western Alaska, lots of marginal VFR as that frontal system is starting to die out over that area. Still some IFR conditions for down from Nunivak Island into Bristol Bay, and marginal VFR over the most of the Bering Sea. So let's take a look at our Anaktuvik Pass IFR conditions. Adigan Pass IFR. For Wednesday, Lake Clark and Merrill, marginal VFR becoming VFR in the afternoon. Rainy Pass, marginal VFR. Windy Pass, marginal VFR. Isabel Pass, marginal VFR. Mentasta Pass, marginal VFR. Tahitna Pass, marginal VFR. And Portage Pass, VFR with some marginal VFR well to the north and the east. And then Chilkoot and White Pass, both marginal VFR. Now for our freezing levels. We've got a lot of area on Wednesday morning for the mainland at the surface, and it's fall and it's getting cold and expected to go below 32 Fahrenheit. However, what we can do is stair step toward the south for the warmer air. So starting with about 2,000 feet temperature inversion over Cook Inlet or so, and then works up to 6,000 feet for southeast Alaska. And then what we see here for out for the Bering Sea, starting about 4,000 feet in the Cold Bay area, and then just working our way south all the way up to 10,000 feet. So that sets up our icing forecast for the west, looking like an area of considerable moderate, hitting the western part of southwestern Alaska, Nunivak Island on up into Norton Sound, also St. Lawrence Island, and that would be about 2,000 feet, which is a freezing level up to 14,000. And then as you get further south, it becomes isolated moderate down through the tip of the Alaska Peninsula, all the way out the Aleutians, and freezing level up to 14,000 feet. And then with that old low that's dying out over southeastern Alaska, what we're seeing is an area of considerable moderate all across southeast Alaska, down through Dixon Entrance and out into the Gulf, 6,000 to flight level 160, and then some isolated moderate trailing out into the Gulf of Alaska. So our jet stream, the main action is to the south of the state, ramping up to about 95 knots or so, well south of the Gulf. And then we see the shape of an upper level ridge where the wind becomes southwesterly, westerly, and then northwesterly down through the Kennedy Entrance and across Kodiak Island. And then the jet is generally westerly to southwesterly over the Bering Sea, ramping up 60 to 80 knots or so out there. Looking at our 9,000-foot winds, we still have a circulation around that low in the central Bering Sea. Winds up to about 40 knots or so, not much along the mainland portion of the state, but notice some northwesterlies coming across Chillicothe Strait into Kodiak Island and also Kennedy Entrance. And then for southeast Alaska, still circulation around that surface low, up to about 40 knots or so, generally southerlies over the Panhandle, and then 40 knots northwesterlies well to the south. And then finally, for the 3,000-foot winds on Wednesday, we've got, again, that upper level or that surface low out in the central Bering Sea, up to about 3,000 feet. We got 40 knots or so. Coming out through Kennedy Entrance, note it's about 40 knots into northwesterlies, and generally northwesterlies south of the low that's in southeast Alaska, up to 45 knots as you get down into the Dixon Entrance area. And so for our turbulence on Wednesday, an area of surface of 4,000 feet, generally considerable moderate over the Aleutians, and a little bit of isolated moderate out over the Bering Sea. Note the Chillicothe Strait area and the Kennedy Entrance area, considerable moderate surface to about 5,000 feet, and also across Kodiak Island, and then it streams over in the Gulf into southwestern Alaska. Looking for some low-level wind shear in about the southern half of the Panhandle or so, with considerable moderate turbulence, surface of 6,000 feet, and some isolated moderate around that. So fly safe out there. Be sure to file a flight plan, and thanks for tuning in.